Calvin, chapter 18. When I woke up in the morning, the sun was rising and a warm wind was blowing outside, and Susie was looking at me with this Mona Lisa smile on her face. I jumped up, knowing we had to travel as fast as we could, knowing we didn't have enough food and water for a whole day, knowing it was probably going to take us a whole day, knowing you'd be there, Bill, waiting, wondering, worrying with that comic strip. Susie, good morning, Calvin. Hobbs, good morning, Calvin. Me, morning, Susie. Me, don't bother rolling up your sleeping bag. We're leaving the stuff behind. She was staring at me funny. Me, what? I know it costs money, but maybe we can come back for it with a snowmobile later. The sled is slowing us down, and we've got to get a serious move on. We're leaving it. Susie, is that all? Me, should there be something else? Susie, yes. Me, what? Susie, well, we kissed, you know. Me, I haven't forgotten. Susie, you can't kiss me and act like everything is the same. Me, I'm not acting. Hobbs, here we go. Susie, you have to wake up in the morning and treat me like somebody who has exchanged saliva with you for the first time. Me, Susie, let me explain. We have to go. Susie, ark, never mind. She sat up and started lacing her boots. Susie, we kissed. Why was I so scared to tell her that at the age of 17 I had just had the happiest event of my life, and it was all downhill from here because Susie McLean had kissed me like she meant it? And how was I scared that it might not be real or it might not ever happen again because life wasn't meant to be that lucky? But the expression on her face was the same as she'd had in first grade when I'd called her gross and booger brain. It was the same face I'd thrown snowballs at, and I knew I had to tell. Me, okay, let me explain something to you. I put my hand on her so she would stop lacing her boots. Me, see, Suze, your brainstem takes care of your biological functions, your heart beating and your lungs breathing. That's the part of your brain that wires you up to mature and produce hormones and so on. Okay, mine did a good job on the hormones at least. And then there's the R complex on your reptile brain, and that one is responsible for basic survival. It's aggressive and territorial and drives you to have sex. That part of my brain also works well, to my huge relief. And then there's the limbic system, and that's over your emotions and moods. That's the one that makes you fall in love. That one took care of business when I was in first grade. Susie, smiling, soft. Me. And then there's the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is the brain that is intuitive and analytical and creative and spiritual. The cerebral cortex is the brain that is responsible for art and science and all the things that make us human. That's the brain that makes you get married in a church and makes you stay in the relationship for 60 years and makes you write poetry to your wife when she's 70 years old. And that, Suze, is the part of my brain that may be sick but is firing on all cylinders over you right now. Susie, your cerebral cortex. Me. Yep, Susie. That's the most romantic thing. I mean, ditto. Me. Ditto? I make this whole long speech and you say ditto? Susie. Okay, let me put it this way. Your cerebral cortex is firing up my R complex. Me. That sounds interesting. Susie. Oh, it is. It is. She stood up. Susie. But we have to go. We quickly ate our peanut butter tubes and our raisins, and I kept glancing at her, and she kept being there. When we were done, she dug in the duffel bag for the compass and pulled something out with a whoop. Susie, cookies. Me, cookies? Susie, thank you, Orville Watts. We grinned at each other. Susie checked the compass, and we got walking. It wasn't a white sun. It was orange as tiger fur. The lake ice was rough now, slabs like tumbled blocks and swells of shattered ice. Soon I was sick of hearing my own breath pumping in my ears. We were still sore and blistery from the day before, and it just got worse. We put one foot in front of the other until I forgot why I was doing this and where I was and who I was. Hobbs growled a lot. For a long time we didn't talk. We were stuck in that place between hating to move and not having any other option. Susie checked the compass often. Susie, what does S stand for again? Me. It's a direction. Susie, what's a direction? Directions didn't mean much in the middle of a white lake nothing. Orville was right when he said the lake was a leftover ocean. People who only looked at her from shore, from solid ground, never really knew anything about the vastness of her. She was an immortal being. Immortal beings don't understand mortals. They don't understand what it feels like to know that at any given minute might be your last. The lake didn't know what it felt like to be hungry when your stomach started digesting its own protective lining and your intestines were collapsing in on themselves and your liver and pancreas were puzzled and on standby and all your cellular functions had nothing to function with. Later in the day, the sky was white blue and the ice was blue white, and it felt like we were in sensory deprivation cell. We weren't even casting shadows. It was warmer than the day before, a lot warmer, in fact, but the wind never looked up, and it sucked the heat and water right out of us. We took sips of water, and I made Susie drink the last bit. I started talking all over the place to keep our minds off it. Susie, you're scared, aren't you? Me, why do you say that? Susie, because you're talking a lot. You're trying to keep my mind off things. Me, things like what? Susie, like I can't feel my feet anymore? Me, did you know it is possible to find two snowflakes exactly alike? Susie, no, it's not. Me, yes, it is. Of course, the odds of finding twin snowflakes is 1 in 10 to the 158th power, which is greater than the number of atoms in the universe. Susie, it's cool to think that odds can be bigger than the universe. Hobbes, the odds of you making it home alive are bigger than the universe. Me, Susie, do you believe in God? Susie, you asked me that before. Me, yeah, but that was when I thought he gave us a car. Susie, you can't believe only when you get stuff. Me, so are you saying you do? Susie, yes. Me, you do, really. Susie, yes. Me, why? Susie, don't act like it's so strange. Me and 3 billion other people in the world. Me, so you believe, so you can be part of a club. What about evolution? Susie, evolution? Maybe that's the way God does it. Maybe God came down every so often and said, hey, life, get complex. Hobbes. And then he created the tiger and rested from his labors. Me, there's no God. Susie, prove it. Me, haven't you heard of Russell's teapot? Susie, huh? Me, this philosopher guy, Bertrand Russell, he said if I say there's a teapot orbiting the sun somewhere, it's up to me to prove it, not up to the other guy to disprove it. Susie, so? Me, so, the teapot. You prove it. Susie, of course there's a teapot. Me, Susie, quantum physics anyone? Infinite number of universes? In one of those universes is a teapot in space. Me, is there tea in it? Susie, warm with sugar. Me, are there crumpets? Susie, what's a crumpet? Me, something that goes with tea. Susie, then there shall be crumpets. Me, so why doesn't God show himself? Susie, I don't know. Maybe I don't believe enough. Half of me yes, half of me no. But I always speak for the yes side. And I mean, if there is a God, it's probably a good idea to believe in him. But if there isn't a God, then we're just an accident of nature, a virus, pond scum gone berserk. And it won't matter one way or another if I believe or not, because who cares? Me. Susie. And so if it doesn't matter, then I choose to believe. There's something mindful about it, about the universe having a heart, us being watched over, maybe life and everything meaning something. Me. Susie. Me. I guess I wonder who is in charge here. Where is the evidence of the ultimate grown-up? Seems like everyone goes around thinking someone is in charge, and they go through their lives thinking that the higher they get on the mountain, the closer they get to meeting the guru on top. And then one day they get to the top and nobody's there. God could clear up a lot of things if he'd just show up to a meeting at the UN or make a brief appearance at the White House, maybe the Pentagon, Times Square. Hobbes, free all the tigers in the zoos. Me, you'd think somebody who hears a tiger all the time could believe in something other people don't see, but actually it makes it worse. Maybe the first guy who invented God was delusional. Maybe if reality is up for grabs, then there's no ultimate reality, which is what God would be in charge of if there was one. Susie was concentrating, like she was replaying in her mind every word I just said. Susie, that's the thing, isn't it? Why doesn't he show himself? Of course, some people say he does to them, but people don't believe them and they kill them or beat them up or drive them away for saying it. And some people do believe it, but use it to make themselves think they're better than anybody else, which causes us all kinds of problems. God's probably sitting up there smacking his forehead and saying, kids, what am I going to do with you? We walked along without talking for a while, but walking without talking felt desperate and boring, and soon all you could think about was the pain in your legs and food and water and sleep. Me. It will be awesome when Bill shows himself. Susie. He burned out. You can't do something that consistently brilliant for 10 years and not burn out. Me. No excuse to disappear. Susie. He knew he'd done his best work. He worked like a madman. He needed a rest. Me. No reason to deny interviews, not show up for awards, refuse to answer fan mail. Susie. He rejects fandom. He's modest, sensible. He knows all that stuff is shallow and pointless. Me. He's an artist. Art means communication. Why doesn't he communicate? Susie. Maybe someday he will. Even Lee Salem said that. Said Bill hadn't locked the door and thrown away the key. He's just not a sellout, is all. He thinks selling out is buying into someone else's values. Or maybe he knows there's power in creating something and then stepping out of the way. All that silence, that refusal to show up for adulation, it forces you to look harder at the creation itself. Like he's saying, this is what I have to say. You laugh, you cry, you think, you change. And that's the point. We walked in silence for a long time. She was getting slower, breathing harder, but she picked up a little when we talked. Me. He'll be on shore with the comic strip when we get there. He'll swear us to secrecy, and we'll take it to our graves. Susie. Okay. How much longer? Me. Not much. Susie. Promise? Me. Promise. Susie. Calvin. This past year? Me. Yeah. Susie. That was the worst part. Not having talks about stuff like this. Me. Yeah. That was the worst for me, too. Chapter 19. Susie gave me one cookie. Me. You eat mine. Susie. Why? Me. I'm rationing. Susie. I'm the leader of this expedition. I'll say when we're rationing. Me. All great leaders listen to the rank and file. Susie. I think you don't deserve that cookie. Me. And you'd be right. You know what's interesting to me about the digestive process? We know empirically that the food in your stomach can all be all colors. Like when you throw up, you never know what color it's going to be, but you know pretty much what color it's going to be when it comes out the other end. I guess bile does that, makes everything brown, unless you're a baby. My mom's cousin had a baby, and his poop was always surprising. Once he had a game piece in there, the Monopoly iron. Another time he had a Lego, blue. Susie was staring at the cookie with a disgusted look on her face. Susie, I'm eating it anyway, but only if you eat yours. We'll take a bite at the same time. Slowly we lifted our cookies, staring into each other's eyes. We bit at the same time, and then stuffed the rest into our mouths as fast as we could. Lunchtime had come and gone without any lunch except oatmeal cookies, which Susie handed out like $100 bills. My legs felt like lead prostheses and still My legs felt like lead prostheses and still no sight of shore. The wind coming from the south was relentless. It never slowed or took a breath. Susie was taking deep breaths. All I could think about was food. Did you know I disagree with both individual and world hunger? Susie. And war. Me. And war. I bet if we got all the Mensas and all the big money makers and all the big technology brains together and all the artists and musicians and filmmakers and put them in a room and said, don't come out until you've solved world hunger and war, I bet they could do it. Right, Susie? Susie nodded. Me. You have to answer. Susie. Yeah, I bet too. It sounded like, yeah, I bet too, because her mouth was as cold and dry as mine was. Me. Which raises a philosophical question. If I'm against war, how does this impact the decisions I make on a more personal level? Take Maurice. When he acts like a jerk toward me, like some countries do towards others, do I fight back? Isn't that how wars are started? It goes against my principles to lower myself to his level of behavior, but I've tried reasoning with him, I've tried being nice to him, and I've tried being a good sport, and things just get worse. Susie, why didn't you ever tell me? Me. You mean, why didn't I call on my allies? Should I have involved them in peace negotiations? Do you think that would work? Susie, no. Me. We'd have to impose sanctions. Like, you could refuse to talk to him, refuse to let him throw his arm around you, and, as you're walking down the hall, for example, not share my sandwich with him? Susie, that was your sandwich? Me. It's always my sandwich. He doesn't share his own. Susie, you could just punch him in the nose. Me. Maybe it's the uneven distribution of resources that causes the problems. Hobbes. You unevenly distributed your peanut butter. Me. So stupid how some people have 4 toilets and some people have none. How NBA players get a new pair of shoes for every other game, while some kids go their whole lives without a single pair. Right, Susie? Susie. Right. She said right without the T on the end of it. Me. And what is it about balls anyway? Find a person who can hit a ball really well with a stick, or put one through a hoop, or knock one into a little hole in the ground, and we pay them bazillions of dollars. Seriously, people, it's a ball, a toy. Huh, Susie? What if we gave all that money to the poor people? Set them up in business or something. Susie. Toy. Me. And how idiotic is it that some even pretty ordinary people over here have a single house as big as a whole African village for only 2 people and their kid dog? Really? Really? And these are supposedly sane people, Susie. You know what's even stupider, Susie? Even stupider than all that? That we all sit around and let it happen. Susie, with a dreamy smile. That's why I picked you. Me. That's a good answer, Susie. More than one word is good. Did you know the last war cost $3 trillion? What if we got together over pizza and said, here's $3 trillion. We can use it to kill people or we can use it to solve our differences. I bet $3 trillion could go a long way towards solving a few differences. I bet our best TV commercial makers could help people understand how moronic war is. What do you say to that, Susie? Susie. Me. That's not a word. Susie. Moronic. Me. Okay, because that was 3 syllables. It's just that the world is so big, Susie. We think we can't change anything because if we tried, someone would call us crazy. But I can tell you that that is not the worst thing in the world. I thought about that, what I just said, for a minute. Me. Okay, maybe it's up there, but not the worst thing. Hobbes. Look at her. She's cold. She's exhausted. Her lips are chapped. Me. Susie. Susie, you doing okay? Susie. I really can't feel my feet. How much longer, Calvin? I took off my mitten and scooped some snow in my bare hand. I held it until it melted. Me. Here, Susie. She lifted my cupped hand to her lips and slurped like a cat. I did it again. I did it until my hand was too cold to melt the snow. Susie. So good. Me. You're doing great, Suze. You're strong. Susie. Not strong. Tell me again why we had to do this? Me. I don't know. Susie. Me. I don't know anymore. Susie. Me. I think I was trying to understand, trying to figure out why I am the way I am. I think I felt like if Bill came out and made a comic about me, I'd understand something about myself, just like Scout did when Boo Radley came out. It would make me feel like the broken bits of me were put back together and the cracks might even disappear. Hobbes. Crack. Me. Hobbes. Crack in the ice. I looked. A crack in the ice. Me. Just step over it. Hobbes. You step over it. I stepped over the crack. I lived. The ice felt firm under my feet, but soon I saw another crack, and then another. Susie. The ice is breaking. Me. No, remember what Orville said. These are old cracks. It's frozen over again, and the cracks don't intersect. Chapter 20. We walked. Susie handed out a cookie when we couldn't stand it anymore. We walked. Susie handed out the last cookie. We walked. Calvin the abominable snowman, Yeti for short, surveys his icy kingdom. Me to me. Stop it. Man has driven him into the coldest wastelands. Me to me. Stop it. Stop it. His mate, smaller and weaker than him, has been pushed past her endurance. She's a little on the toothy side and has a tendency to bite. But when you're at an extinct race, you take your love where you can. Me. Doing okay, Susie? She shook her head. Me. Let me carry you for a while. She shook her head again. Me. Yes, let me carry you for a while. Susie. I'm too heavy. Me. Argue not, mate. Only obey. She held out a hand to ward me off. Susie, who are you now? Me. Yeti. We can do this, Susie. Think of it as a video game, and the snow and the cold are the enemy, and all we have to do is get to that next drift of snow, or that bump shaped like a fin, or step on 20 dents in the ice, and we get to the next level. Every level is a bit harder than the one before, but if you avoid trapdoors and keep moving around, you're good. You're sort of good. She shook her head. She didn't want to play. Me. Susie, when we get to the other side of this lake, I'm going to buy you fried eggs and lots of white bread toast slathered in real butter with pancakes for dessert. Susie, and a breakfast brownie? It sounded like breakfast bounty? Me. There's no such thing as a breakfast brownie. Hobbs. There should be. Spaceman Spiff looks out over the frozen wasteland of planet Erie. It has been well named, he thinks wryly. He and his fellow astronaut are doomed, of course, stranded as they are on this cold ball of rock and ice, hurtling through the blackness of space. They have contacted the father ship. All hope is not lost. But did the captain get the message? Will he think it worth it to interrupt his own mission to rescue them? They will be declared heroes for the cause of space exploration, and people will speculate about how long it took them to die. But Spiff doesn't give up that easily. Eventually, the father ship will come to this planet, and won't the captain be surprised to find they have conquered the elements and survived against all odds? Spiff looks at his female sub-officer. She is a good astronaut, uncomplaining, forging ahead in the hopes of finding shelter. Wouldn't the captain be surprised to find they had not only survived, but procreated, their firstborn, the first citizen of planet Erie? Susie, why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like that? Me, oh, nothing. Bill, I wanted to live, and most of all I wanted Susie to live, and that's what I was thinking about when I heard the most horrible sound in the world, the sound of Susie crying. Me, Susie, Susie. Me, Susie, Susie. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Susie, where is the shore? We should be able to see the land by now. We're going to die out here on this horrible lake. Me, well, the lake itself isn't horrible. Susie, don't you talk to me. Me, Susie, don't. Don't you talk to me ever again. I'm not speaking to you. You understand? Ever again. That's what you get for killing me. Me, Susie, I'm not going to let you die. Susie, let me. I'll tell you what, you don't let me do anything. I don't need your permission to do anything, including dying. Me, Susie, gasping a little. Me, is there a correct response to what you just said? She stood still. Susie, I can't move now. I put my arms around her. Yeti's mate laid her head on his shoulder, and some primeval feeling he would not articulate filled his being. He would do this. He would get her to safety, to the civilization of man. It was all his fault, after all. All his fault. All his fault. All his fault.